and it goes down smooth.
Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhaled frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great.
Just not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
Welcome. Toker Talk Radio on Monday of Thanksgiving week here in the United States. Our Canadian friends have already had their Thanksgiving. And I don't know that other cultures have a tradition of celebrating thanks like we do. I'm not going to go into it. I'm too depressed on that. Brian Durant's hanging out here, although his microphone is nowhere near him, so I'll fix that and then I'll turn it on. We'll see what happens. But welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. Brian's there.
Heidi-ho.
There he is. So let me go back over these numbers just because people are like, oh my God, statistics, so many statistics. I know. I attack with statistics. But I'll give you the look here. So this is the information. And big thanks to Eugene what's his name? Johnson? Was it? No, Eugene Johnson, yeah. I couldn't believe the name was really Johnson. But yes, Eugene Johnson. So here's that table, and let's see if I can get more of it onto the screen. There we go. Okay, so what this table's showing us here is data that I got in these first few columns is from the Washington State Patrol's release, their data release. And our first column here is how many blood tests did they order? Okay. So they've ordered more and more blood tests every year. So there's about 4,800 in 2009, about 200 more in 2010, about 100 more in 2011, about 200 more in 2012. And they're on pace to be another 200 more. So they're on pace to be about 5,500 blood tests that they order. Okay. Now, every one of those blood tests requires that someone's pulled over, suspected of DUI to the point where the cop's going to arrest them and get a blood test. And they said they do about on par with about 20,000 such arrests every year. And they're going to do about 20,000 this year. So right off the bat, only about 1 out of 4 people that get pulled over suspected of impairment here are getting their blood tested. And then out of those 1 out of 4, we got the next column, which is the THC percent positive. These are the people that were positive for THC out of all the blood tests, right? So it is about 1,000 a year. 986 in 2009, 975 in 2010, 1,036 in 2011, 988 in 2012. So it has roughly stuck around in 9,900, about 1,000 or so on average, right? Well, this year they're already up to 745. And this is what all the news outlets are focusing on is, oh my God, we're already up to 745 when all the years before we were only going to hit 1,000. At this pace, we're going to hit 1,490. That's a 50% jump. You go from 1,000 to 1,500 in 1 year. Oh my God, we legalized marijuana and there's more stoned drivers on the road. Oh my God, help us, we're going to die. It's panic.
It's bullshit.
So
more scare tactics.
There's more scare tactics, folks. And this is why I like to get behind these numbers. Indeed, the percentage of people of those tests that are testing positive is like 27%. That doesn't necessarily mean there's more stoned drivers out there or more people with THC in their system. It means you're catching more of them. Like I said, just because you're catching more fish doesn't mean there are more fish out there. You just may be using a bigger net. You may be fishing at a better time of day. You may be looking for the signs of where there's fish to find, right? That's what's going on right here. Cops now have incentive to go after pot drivers. They got this 5 nanogram magic number that automatically equals a conviction and arrest. Everybody's happy. So they're naturally more focused on the pot drivers who are already there. And that's why the number of impaired driving statistic is what's important. They got 20, they're on pace for 20,000 like there are in a usual year. If there were a 50% corresponding increase in how many more impaired drivers there were, they'd be on pace for 30,000. That is to say, if the positive pot tests were indicative of actual impaired driving, wouldn't the actual impaired driving pullover rates increase by 50%? No, they're still pulling over 20,000 people, just more of a percentage of them are testing positive for pot. That might actually be a good thing if fewer of them are coming up for alcohol. Don't have those numbers yet, but you can believe I will ask for them. The other interesting piece in this, now in 2009 and 2010, they didn't keep track or they didn't supply the numbers for how much these people are testing positive. They're not supplying whether it's over 5 nanograms or under 5 nanograms. They just, here's your positive. You had about 1,000 positives. From 2011 on, they started keeping track of how many of these were over or under 5 nanograms per milliliter. So when we come back from break, we're going to talk about why that's part of the important statistic here that we need to look at as far as how Washington's legalization has affected not just the safety of the roads, but the likelihood of you going to jail for a DUI in Washington state. It's actually working out in our favor. We'll talk about that more and take your calls at 971-533-7111 if you've got any comments, questions, suggestions, analysis, or what have you. The topic is driving in Washington state. Be right back.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
I'm Radical Russ Belville, and I want to thank you for listening to 420 Radio. We couldn't survive without you and our sponsors, and I'd like you to check out one of our prime sponsors, the National Cannabis Coalition. I've been working with NCC since June of 2012, and I'm proud to be part of the team they have assembled. National Cannabis Coalition is building the partnerships with reformers, lawmakers, and industry we need to be successful. Visit the National Cannabis Coalition website at nationalcannabiscoalition.com or the easier-to-remember ncc420.com. That's where you'll get the exclusive first look at my radical rants, as well as informative articles from the nation's top cannabis pundits. Visit ncc420.com today, and if you have your phone handy, text Russ to 420-420 to support NCC and 420 Radio. It's a free text message that helps us help you end adult marijuana prohibition. Learn more at ncc420.com, and thanks for supporting independent marijuana legalization public radio. The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, I respectfully invoke all my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney, Omar Figueroa. Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707 829-0215 or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
That's some Roots Monday music there. Roscoe Chenier with the Netherlands Blues, which they got that going on there in the Cannabis Cup. High Times Cannabis Cup going on right now through the 28th. Oh, yeah. We're going to try to get some reports from our friends and some pictures. We'll post some videos from High Times. We'll probably play those on Thursday because we're not going to have live shows on Thursday or Friday. Although Friday night we will have a live Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Herb says he still wants to do a show. He says, dude, man, it's a 4-day weekend. Let's do it. Okay. So we're going to do that. But Thursday and Friday, I will have the day off. But we'll rerun those High Times videos, as many of them I can find, and maybe some best of speeches. We'll just find out. Anyway, I want to go back to the data, of course. You know me.
Facts.
I love them. So here is that table we've been looking at. And first few columns, all but the last two columns, are data that the news media have been reporting on. Oh, I shouldn't have done that, should I? All right, let's do. Yeah, I got it all skiddly wampus. So let's just fix that.
Got it all foodly.
Yeah, it's all fugly. I didn't like that.
Foodly doodly.
Yeah, I didn't like it. So I'll fix that. All right. So anyway, this data is basically showing us information on traffic stops from 2009 through 2011 with the first. Or 2012, with the first half of 2013 included. And I was getting to these under and over 5 nanogram numbers that are important. And why they're important is because in 2011 here and 2012 here, it doesn't really matter whether it was under 5 or over 5. The number that mattered was over here. The total number of THC positives, because any amount of THC positive was pretty good evidence that was going to get you busted for DUI in Washington State. Now, we're looking at 745 THC positives, which is on track for 1,490, a big increase of THC positives. But now these two columns make a difference. These under 5 nanogram people, these 325 people, on pace to be 650 of them, that's people who before I-502 passed could have been charged with DUI and had any nanograms, 1, 2, 3, or 4, be pretty darn good evidence to get them convicted of DUI. Now it's evidence to show they were under the limit. They were under the legal limit. They got a better chance of getting out of that DUI charge. 650 people now have a better chance of getting out of their DUI charge. Now, the 420 that we have out of 6 months is on pace to be 840, which is indeed a shame. It sucks that 840 people are automatically convicted for that 5 nanograms when, in truth, many of them may not be impaired. Keep in mind, though, that to get to the point of having the 5 nanogram test, a cop said they were impaired and had enough evidence of that to want to get a blood draw, a warrant, arrest, a warrant, a blood draw. So, I guess I don't need a warrant, it's implied consent. But anyway, we innocent until proven guilty, and 5 nanograms proving them guilty really sucks. But that's 840 people compared to the year before that it was 988 that were getting busted. In the year before there was 1,036 that were getting busted. So it's not a net good or bad at this point, but it's nowhere near the huge DUI apocalypse that was predicted by the No on I-502 crowd. Remember those predictions? Remember how it was going to be everybody who was a person who ever smoked pot was going to get arrested. All medical patients would be arrested. Everybody's going to get a DUI. It doesn't look like that many more DUIs are happening. Doesn't look like it from these data. And the other piece of data that's important is the percentage of the positive tests that are over the 5 nanogram limit has actually gone down. In 2012, over 60% of the positive tests were over 5 nanograms. Now, it's under 60%. It's 56.4% of the positive tests are over the legal limit. Could it be that when there is a legal limit and people know what it is, that they modify their behavior accordingly? I better not drive. It's been too soon since I smoked pot. Maybe I should just wait a little bit. Maybe more of that's happening? It's hard to tell, but it's looking positive to me.
Now, these last two columns I added these last two columns from information that I pulled from the Washington Traffic Safety Council, I think it is. Whatever the state agency is with tasked with tracking traffic safety. And I wanted to know, they have figures for traffic fatalities as those traffic fatalities relate to any particular drug that was detected in a person's system. They've got an overall impaired drivers. These were how many fatalities we can attribute to somebody being impaired on something. And then they got these two numbers, alcohol fatalities and cannabis-related fatalities, what they consider. And the alcohol and the THC fatalities. And what we found is that from a high of 169 deaths from alcohol and 140 related to cannabis, at least. Now, remember, when they say related to cannabis, they mean there was a fatality and we tested the driver's pee or blood and found that they had used cannabis at some point in their life. It's not like alcohol where, oh my God, this guy was drunk and his drunkenness made him kill someone. This is a stoner got in a wreck that killed someone. That's all this proves. Doesn't prove anybody was impaired at the time. But even at that number, this has gone down from 140 back in 2009, 134 in 2010, 101 in 2011, 114 in 2012, and for the first half of 2013, there are just 40 fatalities in the state of Washington having to do with THC, on pace to be 80. A drop of about 50%. A little less than that, 40-something. And the same thing is happening with the numbers for alcohol fatalities. 169 down to 135, down to 121, down to 113, down to this year, 44 so far, on pace to be 88 for the year. Could it be that some people are swapping their booze for pot? Could it be that as more people become aware of the idea and the truth that marijuana is safer than alcohol, they're changing their behaviors? Could it be that as legalization and regulation happens, more people are willing to abide by reasonable laws than unreasonable prohibitions? These are all possible questions and answers to these data. These data open up a lot of questions, as maybe as many as they answer. But I can tell you what they don't tell us. They do not show the DUI apocalypse that was predicted by the No on I-502 crowd. Neither do they show us the impaired driver apocalypse that was predicted by the other No on I-502 crowd, the actual prohibitionists, the ones who really don't like marijuana. What we see is a little more detection of marijuana, but we don't know whether that's attributable to more looking for the impairment of marijuana. And even the cops involved in a lot of these stories have gone, to be quoted in some of the stories saying, look, it's going to be 3 years before we really know, before we have any idea of what the trends are going to be. But from what I can tell of my friends up in Washington State, the roads have not gotten any more dangerous than they were before. I'm looking at you, Seattle traffic. Things seem to be going just fine in Colorado as well. We're not hearing of massive pileups and wrecks and deaths from their legalized marijuana system. We are going to find, as marijuana regulation takes hold around the country, a reduction in harm, and the prohibitionists like Kevin Sabet are going to try to grab onto any increase, any number that increases having to do with marijuana is going to be de facto bad, without trying to, and they're going to try to take it out of the context of, wait a minute, just because this number went up doesn't mean that good didn't happen or bad didn't get alleviated. There may be more people smoking pot, but are few people drinking? Are fewer people taking prescription drugs? Are they substituting marijuana for these other things that are worse for society and worse for the person? Do we have fewer kids binge drinking, fewer kids playing, using beer bongs and turning to pot bongs? Is that an overall good if we have less problems with teen binge drinking? You can't take any one of these stats in a vacuum. You've got to examine it against the context
of all the other harms in society. And this would be a good time to examine those harms, because it is 4:20 here in the Pacific time zone. And we've got some Cindy 99 that is some stinky, smelly crumbleweed. Oh my God, this is good stuff. Not bragging, I'm just happy. I'm thankful. It's Thanksgiving week, man. Thank you, nature, God, evolution, for making this.
Go weed.
Go weed.
He would send you South Carolina, then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
Cannabis Outreach Collective is an alternative health and wellness option located in Gladstone, Oregon, that serves patients in the Portland area and beyond. We are a full-service alternative health and wellness collective accommodating patients with natural, organic, holistic, and homeopathic remedies, nutritional guidance, advice, education, and medical cannabis, fully in accordance with Oregon OMMP law. You can find out more about Cannabis Outreach Collective on Facebook at COC503 or by emailing cannabisoutreachcollective503@gmail.com or by telephone at 503-853-1319. Check out our menu on Weed Maps and visit Cannabis Outreach Collective today.
Smoking man.
Wood Pipe Smoke Shop and Speakeasy is your source for cannabis community gear in southern Wisconsin. Owners Brian and Tammy Wood are located in Kendall, just outside of Madison, and they've got everything for the smoking enthusiast, including a full assortment of pipes, water pipes, hookahs, bubblers, one-hitters, and so much more. They're open noon to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday and can help you with your detoxification therapies as well. Call 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com for more information. That's 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com. And as always, go pack go. 420radio.org presents The Russ Belville Show, live every weekday at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, with replays at 6 p.m., 9 p.m., 6 a.m., and 9 a.m. weekdays, as well as replays of the entire week's worth of shows beginning Saturdays at 3 p.m. and Sundays at 9 a.m. right here on 420radio.org.
Girl, I know you got a man, but we can keep it on the low. I got a little private hideaway we can go. Do all of the little freaky things you like for sure. Can you keep a secret, means nobody gotta know. Girl, I know you got a man, but we can keep it on the low. I got a little private hideaway we can go. Do all of the little freaky things you like for sure. Can you keep a secret, means nobody gotta know.
She shiver when I touch her, she moan when I clutch her. She minds when you cuff her, stop thinking about the sucker. In public, play your brother, she dig me cause I'm gutter. No need to say I love her, she feel it when I hug her. I'm who she with, when she say she working late again. Or chilling out with friends, we have the comfort in. She like to smoke a little, she like to sip some gin.
Welcome back everybody, Toker Talk Radio, and I'm going to do something that you don't hear the drug prohibitionists do. I'm going to admit a mistake. I'm going to make a correction. The data that I was referring to as far as like the deaths on the Washington State roadways, I kept saying that it was, THC related deaths. No, Russ, that's not what it was. What it was, if I can get the video here. That's fine. What it was, this is the Washington State Target Zero statewide priority database. Under priority 1 was drug impaired driver, not THC impaired driver. So that figure I was telling you about us being close to, having 40 deaths from THC drivers for the year. No, that was 40 deaths from drug impaired drivers. That would include THC, but it would also include meth or heroin or coke or OxyContin or any other drug impairment, right? So that's actually even lower think those numbers are even actually lower than what I was saying in the rant. That's the point. And yes, folks, this is a spreadsheet from the Washington State Target Zero. You'd be amazed what you can find on your state websites if you just go looking, if you know how to find it. And if you know what language. That's the hardest part, is knowing what it would be called when you're trying to search for it. You know, whether to use the word data or statistics or map or chart or, you know, whatever particular phrase they're going to use for it. And sometimes I have to hammer away at it and try a few more. But it doesn't seem to be, you know, looking at this, they also have the figures for serious injury crashes and those kind of things. And the numbers are all greater when I look at the previous years. It does not seem like Washington State's roads, you know, going all the way, but this thing goes all the way back to 2007, showing that when it came to drug-impaired driver-involved fatal crashes, there were 146 in 2007, and they're on pace to have 80 this year. And I always bring this stuff up. This is the quarterly report. You can find this on the Washington State Traffic Safety website. I always bring this stuff up because, you know, this fear of the stone driver is just that. It's just a fear. It's not real, folks. It's a solution in search of a problem. You know, the old joke is that the drunk driver will run the red light, but the stone driver will sit at the stop sign waiting for it to turn green. There's some truth to that. If there are stone drivers, they're already out there, and they've already been out there, and they haven't been causing massive mayhem on the roads. Now, let me stop for a second and play devil's advocate. Here's the argument that you make, though, on the other side. They would say, yeah, you folks that have been stoners all these years are out on the roads driving. And you've built up tolerance, and we're not worried about you. What we are worried about is when marijuana becomes legal, the kid who just turns 21 and now, hey, I'm 21, I can buy weed. And he's never smoked weed before in his life, and he gets stoned and then gets behind the wheel. He's the guy who doesn't have the tolerance. He's the one they are worried about. So that would be the other side of the argument that would argue for having, you know, some sort of limit, some sort of easily detectable limit. This is what their argument is on that other side. The problem is they're trying to pound a marijuana-shaped peg through an alcohol-shaped hole. Alcohol works that way chemically. Alcohol does have a magic number that for any size of person within, you know, reasonable bounds, and for any amount of alcohol drinking experience within, again, reasonable bounds, the vast majority of people that test above 0.08 on a BAC are going to be too drunk to drive. On the marijuana side, there's no good magic number for that. 5 nanograms might be a really good magic number for that 21-year-old who just, you know, on his birthday just got high for the first time ever. He probably is too stoned to drive at 5. Brian's sweat comes out at 5, man. Brian's never below 5. Of course, Brian doesn't drive, but regardless.
Yeah, but I can still avoid cars on my skateboard.
And that's a skill of its own here in Portland.
Indeed. Especially with, you know, street lights out.
That's right. So there is no good magic number when you're looking at marijuana. There's a good number for the newbies. 5 nanograms is not a bad number for the newbies because, you know, there's some studies you can show where there's increased odds ratio and all that. But, you know, those studies are always compromised by the fact that, you know, it's hard to administer placebos in those kind of studies, right? Because you can tell you're not getting high. So you know you got the placebo. So it kind of kills that part of an experiment. Also, they're usually giving them some of that, you know, El Soli, University of Mississippi ditchweed marijuana, that swag that Elvie and Irv get. That's what, 5% at best. Mixture of stems and sticks and crap. So there's all sorts of limitations on these tests, you know. So on the one hand, the marijuana out there on the streets is much more potent than anything they're studying. So wouldn't that argue once again for, oh my God, there's going to be stoned people? But on the other hand, those studies also tend to bring in people that aren't the chronic marijuana smokers who are going to have, you know, more adverse reactions to smaller amounts of THC. Now, as Dr. Mitch mentioned earlier, they are starting to do more studies on the chronic smokers. And folks, you got my name and address. Submit me. I'll go. I'll go be a lab rat for these studies. That'd be fun. Brian will do it. We'll do it.
Hey, that's something I've been waiting for.
That's right.
One of my goals is to find a strain that's got a cannabinoid profile that's perfectly suited for me. And I know everybody's got a strain that will work for them. These cannabinoids, they interact with your brain on a molecular level that's unlike anything that we can ingest in nature.
I think, though, we're onto something here with a career as a professional chronic study candidate. When they're looking for, what happens when a chronic cannabis consumer does X, Y, or Z?
Oh, yeah.
They'll have your name in the Rolodex. They'll just bring you into the lab.
Yeah, call me up. It's like just yesterday, let's see, I was smoking vapor. I was hitting about 3-4 joints. I took like 8 dabs, and I was still functioning properly. So
there you go.
And that was all within a couple hour period. So.
There's
and I had a couple of cannabis jello shooters. So.
Oh, jeez. I can't do those things. Oh, my God.
Yeah, Medibles, guys. I was still up till like 9 o'clock at night. Well, it's like I was still real active at 9 o'clock at night and up since early. But whatever.
This is the thing.
Yeah, call me.
It's a continuation of this. If the number goes up, if anything about marijuana use goes up, it's just a bad thing. And I don't agree. I think marijuana use going up in a lot of respects is going to be good for the society, especially as we see fewer people using, overdosing on prescription drugs, fewer people, with binge drinking problems, people on harder drugs being able to kick those drugs, using substitution therapy with marijuana, older folks being able to live more productive and enjoyable lives, being mentally stimulated, being able to have the anti-inflammatory effects that allow them to get up and move around more. There's going to be so much positive benefit. And I think we're at a point now where, we can't let up on the fact that prohibition is a failure and it creates crime and it ruins lives and it's by its nature racist. Can't let up on that, of course. But I think now, as we cross over into the promised land, it's time to start talking about the good of marijuana and what it's going to do. And not to any, true believer, pie in the sky kind of, deification of marijuana, but just enough to say, hey, if more pot use, if there does turn out to be more pot use, but fewer people are drunk driving, well, then more pot use is okay. If more people are using pot and we're giving turns out the prescriptions for Adderall for kids are going down, hey, maybe that's okay. Hey, there's more of these pot clubs opening up, but they don't seem to have the fights and the drunk driving arrests that the taverns have. Maybe this pot going up is not necessarily a bad thing. You can't take a pot statistic in a vacuum. You got to see how are other things responding? How is the rest of the world reacting? And that was always the spear tip of the California medical marijuana being legalized. And our opponents said, it's the camel's nose under the tent. Yep, you're absolutely right. Ha ha, camel's in now. But it was absolutely the idea that, okay, marijuana right now, back in the early 90s, late 80s, is evil thing. President Reagan compared it to having your brain fried by the nuclear radiation of a bomb blast. That if you used it, you were helping to fund terrorists and evil people. It's going to lead you straight to heroin and addiction and crack and all these terrible things. And the idea was, well, if at least we break through people's minds with the notion that, yeah, pot's awful, pot's terrible, people that use it are criminals, but maybe we shouldn't bust the people that are really sick that get medical benefit from it. By then there was enough people that knew anecdotally about people smoking a doobie when they're on chemo, to stop the puking. There was enough anecdotal, that was kind of a urban legend kind of floating around in people's consciousness. They vaguely had some idea of it. And it was successful. It was a very successful move to say, hey, how dare you? How dare you throw this cancer patient in jail when they're just smoking weed? Yeah, smoking weed's bad, but it's not so bad that you need to put them in a cage over it when they have cancer. Sure, if they're a healthy 45-year-old guy, yeah, catch him smoking pot, by God, throw him in a cage. But, if he's sick, he couldn't help it. He had to smoke the evil devil's lettuce. He had to use it because it gave him some medical benefit. Now, I'm exaggerating, but I'm exaggerating for effect here to show you what the other side of that frame is. That while it was the camel's nose under the tent in a sense, while it did open people's minds to the fact that we needed to change our marijuana laws, it maintained a demonization of people that weren't using it medically. It maintained a separation of people who use cannabis by how noble and legitimate their reason for using it is. I think it's time to shed that part of it now. And we don't have to do away with the medical side at all. No, if you support the right for everyone to use cannabis, how could you not support the right for some people to use cannabis? That's just a logical fallacy. Of course you still support medical. Of course you want to get medical passed in a state if that's the only thing that can pass. I'm saying what we do now is change the implied other side. Change this from being I'm a patient, not a criminal, to I'm a patient and a cannabis user. Make it that cannabis user is something that's okay. We'll talk more about that when we come back for break. It's something I've been working on for a long, long time now, and who knows, I just might write a book about it.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisements because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Cast your eyes up to the skies. What is it to live and die? Calculated stars and
Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, home of the famous lighter leash. Herb Age Designs, get your Herb Age t-shirts and hoodies and show your pride. Herb Age Designs, we've got frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter. We'll see you at this year's Hemp Fest. Crank it up.
Kom allemaal naar de Cannabis Cup van 24 tot en met 28 november in Amsterdam in de Van Genthallen bij Amsterdam Roest. Verwacht alle coffeeshophouders uit Amsterdam die hun beste nieuwste producten laten zien. En hun wiet en hash wordt gekeurd door een panel aan deskundige wiet-experts die een uitreiking gaan doen wie de beste wiet en hash heeft van het land. Verder heel lekker eten, drinken, sapjes, toffe optredens in de Melkweg. Dus zorg dat je erbij bent, 26e editie van de Cannabis Cup.
Long live the king, kings and queens. Raise your glass as I propose a toast to the long-living legacy of the Cottonmouth Kings. Long live the king.
We still here, we got the game on lock. We ain't going nowhere, we still sitting on top. We still doing our thing, we still reigning supreme. That's why everywhere we go they yell at Cottonmouth King. We still here, we got the game on lock. We ain't going nowhere, we still sitting on top. We still doing our thing, we still reigning supreme. That's why everywhere we go they yell at Cottonmouth King. Whoever thought these rowdy whiteys from the south of California, Orange County would still be pushing and pounding Our beats in the streets and smoking 15 years later. Some say it's an incredible feat like the rebound of the Lakers. So I'm here to thank the people that made it all possible. The kings and queens and shows to the crew that's out on the road. All the homies at the noise and in the warehouse shipping space. Johnny Fiction, I'm your boy and these colors never fade.
Yo, Kilo, back again, blaze the weed, you can ask a friend. Load the pole, burn the hemp, let the games begin, so here we go. Yeah, on the road, players blow, cotton mouth, killing shows. Fuck the hoes, 13, we still in the road. Killing the flows, killing the shows, killing the quality, killing the dough. Feeling the soul, feeling the drove, we feeling the money, so now you know. Cotton out, bitch, you can get a taste of it. Reload the next trick, and I bet y'all make you famous.
Long live the Kings. That's Cottonmouth Kings. We're here at Rolla J Studios. We had a power outage earlier today, so I'm a little scrambling for stories. I didn't have knocked out my flow today. I have a system here, folks.
Yeah,
And,
he runs like clockwork.
Knocked me out for about, I don't know, it was like 45 minutes or so, but I took a walk, you know, because it's like the whole house was out, right? I was sitting down here and typing away on that Washington, 5 nanogram thing, when the whole house went, and then the whole thing was out. No lights, no nothing. So I'm like, oh, was it breakers? No, I went upstairs. Everything's out. The whole house is out, right? Oh, well, is it the neighborhood? So I start walking up the neighborhood, and sure enough, I walk up to the Kim's grocery market that's up there. Our little local head shop, it was closed down. The little clerk out there with his Alabama hat, the Alabama guy. He's like, yeah, power's all out. So I walk up to the corner of Fremont, Northeast Fremont and Sandy Boulevard. And for folks outside the Portland area that don't know, this is one huge clusterfuck of an intersection. You got Fremont, Northeast Fremont, which is this fairly well-used artery street, right? Let's see, Fremont would be going east-west, would it?
Yeah.
Pay attention, there'll be a quiz later.
Yeah, Fremont's in east-west.
Yeah, so you got this big east-west artery, right? And then you got 72nd, which isn't a big artery, but it's a decent, street, residential,
and that's
street.
the north-south.
That's a north-south.
Your normal cross.
Normal cross.
But if that wasn't bad enough.
You got Sandy Boulevard that crosses.
Which is a crossways fucker that, shoots across the city and it's diagonal.
It's a diagonal that goes right across the intersection of Northeast Fremont and 72nd. And on top of it, 72nd is one of those streets that on the one side is a regular old two-way street, but on the other side is one of them boulevards where it's like this big park blocks in the middle and you got to drive
one ways on each side.
One ways on either side of them, right? So in a sense, it's a 7-way intersection if you look at it the right way, right? So it's this big, massive.
If you're a pedestrian, it's
if you're a pedestrian, it's a 7-way. So you got these 7 different roads that are hidden. Sandy's a 5-laner, 2 lanes on either side with a suicide, and then Fremont's a 2-laner, 2 lanes going the other direction. 72nd's a 2-laner on the one side and the boulevard style on the other side. They all meet at this one intersection and the power's out. No stoplights. So I put a couple of short films on my Instagram of that intersection. If you want to check out it's RB Show 420 on Instagram. I put up a couple videos of it because it was fun to watch. It was just like, oh my God, somebody's going to die.
What's going to happen? What's going to happen?
Because when you're turning off of one of those, there's 3 different options. There's 3 or 4 different options as to where you're turning.
Yeah, it's like if you're trying to cross one of the streets, and you're a pedestrian, you're waiting for the cross light. It takes like 5 minutes or more to cycle through. Okay, this direction can go. Okay, this direction can turn. Okay, this direction can go. All right, that direction can come. Okay, this direction can go and turn.
It's amazing. Yes, and with the lights off, of course, the law is that you come to a 4-way stop with no street lights. You're supposed to do it like a 4-way stop, right? This side goes, then that side goes. But when there's 7 sides. And buses and pedestrians. Oh God, it was fun to watch. I just enjoyed people honking each other, flipping each other off, and
rabble.
It was a lot of fun. Okay. So anyway, so I walked around for a while, checked out. The neighborhood was all down, but a little further down to the Safeway, it was fine. So it was only from like 70th Avenue up, and you were telling me it was up to about 82nd. So.
Well, yeah, when I got off earlier, 82nd and Fremont was still out. Sandy was up. 82nd and Sandy was up, but 82nd and Fremont was still out.
There we go. Well, I did find a story that I wanted to comment on. It's really just it's a satire, so take it for it's a satire. But this is good. I just have to read it because it's funny.
So yes, satire, people, not real news. No.
With marijuana legal, new criminal class needed. Washington, D.C. With many states moving toward legalization of marijuana, an unintended crisis has emerged. Economists anticipate that with 50% of black teens no longer funneled into the criminal justice system, the prison industry will need to find new customers or face extinction by 2020. The industry was hired by the Buzz Crew agency to attract those new customers with a North American media campaign using the slogan, "Prisons, they're not just for blacks and Latinos anymore." The concept is simple, explained creative director Troy Post. People have a fixed idea in their heads about what a criminal is. He's black, he's Latino, he has a hoodie. We're saying, no, open your minds, end quote. Market research shows that the largest growth sector for illegal behavior is in corporate management. Prison owners hope to tap into that fertile market by appealing to local municipalities to get white-collar criminals into the system early, where they can become lifelong customers. Said prison CEO Dan Norseman, quote, "If we can get suburban white guys into our many excellent prisons with charges that make them unable to find work again in the mainstream economy, it's win-win," end quote. One more loyal customer for the world's premier incarceration industry, one less guy peddling complex derivatives on the street, end quote. He added, quote, "We're asking local sheriff's departments, county police, and prosecutors to start getting more aggressive. Jailbreak your iPhone and you're going to jail. These are gateway crimes to murder and rape. If we don't lock these people up now, they'll be coming after our wives and daughters," end quote. In Washington, where the prison industry employs scores of lobbyists and contributes to both parties, a bill expected to sail through Congress criminalizes oversharing on Facebook, along with Instagramming anything that is or might be mistaken for a cat. Industry leaders are confident that with the right mix of marketing and lobbying muscle, the horrific overcrowding that is the hallmark of our criminal justice system can continue to astonish the world, with only a small change in the color of the inmates. Bravo, sir. Bravo.
My.
That's my kind of satire. No, it's not The Onion. It's Daryl Rowland.
Stick in there.
Daryl Rowland. He's a screenwriter, humorist, political blogger, and marketing consultant. This is up on the Huffington Post.
Didn't he do something before that, you got all ranty about and then found out that it was satire?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same guy, but this happens all the time.
Yeah, I know. It's fighting against each other now, people. Come on. Lay off.
Well, I love it. With marijuana legal, new criminal class needed. I'll switch this over to the chat room here. You guys can...
criminal class.
Yeah, we need a new criminal class. But hey, wouldn't that be something if we actually used the motive of for-profit prisons to go after for-profit criminals? Use it to actually go after the white-collar criminals, the banksters, the traders, these guys that, ruined our economy and never spent a day in jail.
That would be nice, if the people who are pulling the strings could be held accountable, but this is America.
What?
They're running the prisons. You think they're going to be inside them?
That's crazy socialism.
No, that's America.
And in other news, in the news today, there was that story on the Florida couple that I wanted to talk about a little bit more. This is where the Florida couple owns some vacation properties in Louisiana. They get a note from one of their housekeeper people, management people, who knows, that says, "Hey, you got this box, this UPS box that showed up. What do you want us to do with it?" And they're like, "We don't get an order, not expecting anything, send it back." So apparently they tried to send it back, but it never got sent back. Let me see if I can get to the story here. So there's a cleaning lady, right? And they told the cleaning lady, send it back to UPS. The cleaning lady returned the box, but it was later shipped back to the rental. Right, so she returned it to UPS. UPS said, "Oh, well, we're going to take it back to this place," right? So I take it back to the place.
Because the address wasn't changed. It wasn't marked return to sender.
Right, I guess. So she takes it in the house. Keeps it in the house. Then the husband and wife, they get there to check on their vacation property. The box is there. So they're like, "Well, all right, what's in the box?" What's in the box? So they open the box, and there's two locked blue suitcases. And so they own vacation properties, right? Mm-hmm. So they're figuring, oh, well, maybe somebody had lost their luggage on vacation when they came to our property, and it was getting shipped out to them, but it got shipped out to them too late, and it missed them, and so now I've got their luggage, and so they just take the luggage and they put it in the back of their truck, drive it back to Florida. Well, in the in the luggage, 11 pounds of weed.
Stupid.
So 11 pounds of weed and they have no idea, right?
Hey, I got a couple of random bags showed up in a package. I'm just going to throw that in my truck bag and head on back to Florida.
So here you are, driving the I-10 across Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida, one of the most heavily watched drug trafficking routes in the United States.
The hater state.
Yeah.
Hater state.
With 11 pounds of weed in your truck and no clue that it's there. Now,
congratulations. You just won the Stupid of the Year award.
Now, these people get back home to Florida. They make it all the way through these states. They get back to Florida. They check out the law. You know, they get the luggage open. They find out there's weed in it, and they immediately call the sheriff. Sheriff!
Help!
Oh, my God,
we just brought some weed from another state.
It's not the weed. Damn lucky that it wasn't me and Brian that had picked up these suitcases.
Good Lord.
11 pounds of weed. So anyway, the cops are very understanding because this is like, you know, I'm going to say they're probably an older couple. The story doesn't, but we're talking, you know, they live in Key Largo.
Yeah, well, they're probably a better off couple that's known around their community. They own vacation properties, probably there as well.
There you go. Exactly. So I'm assuming they're older.
And they got the complexion of protection. So,
probably so. So yeah, so they turn in the cops, and the cop in the story here, if I can find his quote,
says
he said Monroe County Sheriff Sergeant Al Ramirez said in a statement, quote, "This could have been really bad. These people were traveling all over with this stuff in their truck. If they'd been pulled over with it, they could have wound up in jail, and their truck may have been seized." End quote. Well, yeah, it would have been really bad. You get caught with 11 pounds of weed in Mississippi or Alabama, hell, in Louisiana for that matter. Oh boy. And your excuse, you're going to say, no, these are just bags that were at our vacation place. We don't even know. Sure.
Yeah, they didn't
get in the cage.
Yep. And they ain't seeing daylight for a while.
So I just wanted to talk about that because they're reacting so much that, oh my God, this could have been so bad for these people. Well, it would be bad for any people that gets caught with this. It's just bad.
And that's what's bad. Yeah, it's bad.
Prohibition endangered those people.
Prohibition is bad, okay? Because it's bad and it hurts people. And, you know, and people are good most of the time. You know, shouldn't hurt people.
My new mantra is prohibiting vices creates crime. Regulating vices creates revenue. 8 simple words. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll have our final segment here on Toker Talk Radio, and we'll get you ready for our 5 o'clock showing of the new Coral Reefer show. There's a new Coral Reefer Stony Sunday, so stay tuned for that. And at 8 o'clock, we got the new Viper Hour. We're going to go musical this time, play some tunes tonight from the late 20s to the early 50s, Reefer Jazz. Stick around.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisements because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Marijuana and alcohol are the 2 most popular recreational drugs in America. Marijuana smoking is non-toxic, relatively safe, and has a low risk of dependence. Alcohol drinking is potentially fatal, dangerous to society, and is quite addictive. marijuana is safer, so why are we driving people to drink? That's the question of the new book, Marijuana is Safer, So Why Are We Driving People to Drink? By Paul Armentano, Mason Tvert, and Steve Fox. Visit Amazon.com or ChelseaGreen.com today to order your copy of Marijuana is Safer, or visit marijuanaissafer.com. You can learn all about the shows on 420radio.org by visiting our page, 420radio.org, for our original lineup. Visit 420radio.org/replays for all of our replay shows, and 420radio.org/schedule to find out when they play in your time zone. Thanks for supporting Cannabis Community Radio right here at 420radio.org.
I'm Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com, the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
Welcome back, Tokers and Tokettes. That's We Die with Moonlight. Some of our Electric Tuesday music there. So let that sit in the background while I want to give some non-marijuana related link out here. There is a blog post that went viral. It's got millions of views now. It's up on Huffington Post, and it's entitled, "This is Why Poor People's Bad Decisions Make Perfect Sense." And it's one of the best things I've ever read on the subject, just in general. And the only thing I would add to it, she talks a little bit in it about her cigarette use and how, as a poor person, this is a legitimate decision because I'm working so hard and I'm so tired that when I can't even stand anymore, it's a stimulant. It'll get me up. It'll get me going. It can get me through the day. Yeah. And I would add to her, I would write the same essay. I would just change it to say why we use marijuana. Same thing as poor people. This is something that goes, you can make it stretch if you have to.
Well, a long time ago when I first started using cannabis, my dad told me that in China only the bums smoke it. Everybody else eats it.
Yeah?
Yeah, and that was 20 years ago. So it's always been attributed. Smoking something has always been attributed with stinky, dirty, poor. It's just another way that they've been able to stigmatize us. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't care about stigma so much as I care about law. You can dislike my pot smoking. You can think it's stinky, dirty, awful, evil habit. Mm-hmm. Just don't put me in jail. And just give me the same rights as a cigarette smoker and a beer drinker. That's all I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Hey, folks, I want to thank you for joining us here. We had a good time. Coming up next, we've got the Stony Sundays with Coral Reefer. Coming up at 8 o'clock tonight, live, new Viper Hour. I'll be here spinning some old Reefer jazz tunes. Got the Mexican Coke burps. And we've also got Thanksgiving coming up this week. So this Thursday and Friday, no live shows for the Russ Belville Show or Toker Talk Radio. But we will be doing the live edition of the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour on Friday. So we'll have shows today and tomorrow and Wednesday. Next week, regular show on Monday, show from Phoenix on Tuesday, I believe. Shows from Key West, Florida, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, where we're reporting from the Key West Legal Seminar for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Following week, shows from Miami, I believe. So all sorts of fun coming up here as we round the beginning of December. For Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it.
unsuspectingly.com.